But figuring out is a part of well-being that isn't talked about enough. That a part of the process, because we are going to go through so many changes. We're going to go through a lot of changes. And how do we reset? How do we determine if we need a bigger pot? How do we determine if we need a smaller pot? How do we determine if it needs to be repotted? Or we need more sunlight? Or we need to be isolated a little bit? Like, it's a part of that process, and being okay to one, accept I'm going to go through changes. And I give myself permission to restructure in the now for those changes. And if you understand that, it's like, oh, I gotta have good soil. I gotta have some nutrients that, hey, stuff is going to happen. But because of my soil and because I've been intentional about it, something is still going to grow. There's still going to be something in there. And that's why it's just so important. You get me a little fired up. Yes.
I was just about to say, you getting fired up. Okay. Welcome to Tend to It, a space where we remember that mental health, like a garden, needs tending. I'm Aiysha Walida, and this season, Rooted and Rising, we're exploring how the rhythms of the garden can guide our healing and growth. In today's episode, we're preparing the soil, creating a foundation for growth, even before planting. Just like in the garden, where the ground must be nourished and made ready, our own growth depends on the care we give to what lies beneath the surface. I'm joined by Dr. T.C. Mason, a positive psychologist and life transitions coach, who shares how cultivating coping strategies, support systems, and daily rituals can become the rich soil that helps us thrive. Together, we'll explore what it means to tend to our foundation so that when the time comes to grow, we're ready. This is Tend to It. Let's dig in. Welcome, loves. As always, before we begin, I want you to fully enter this space with me. Wherever you're listening from, maybe you're walking, driving, or cleaning up on a Saturday morning, take a pause. Let yourself arrive just as you are. Now take a breath with me. Inhale and exhale. I am Aiysha Walida, licensed therapist and storyteller, and this is Tend to It, a space where we remember that mental health, like a garden, needs tending. This season is called Rooted and Rising, and together we're exploring how the garden can guide us in caring for our inner lives. In our last episode, we talked about how slow is sacred, the beauty of honoring your pace and trusting timing. Today, we're digging a little deeper into the soil itself. Before anything can grow, the ground has to be readied. This episode is all about preparing the soil, creating the foundation for growth even before planting. Preparing the soil is about readiness, nourishing what's underneath before expecting something to actually bloom. In the garden, soil must be enriched, aerated, cleared, and filled with nutrients. Before new life can take root, all of these things need to happen. So in our mental health, the same is true. If our foundation isn't cared for, even the best intentions struggle to grow. The preparation is the work. That's the tending. Growth doesn't start when we see the bloom. It starts underground. When we take time to tend to the soil, that might mean rest, therapy, community, boundaries, or care practices that steady us. And that's why I'm so excited about today's conversation. Because before we can grow, we have to prepare. And no one speaks to that better than today's guest. I am joined today by Dr. T.C. Mason. Dr. T.C. Mason is a speaker, therapist, and positive psychologist on a mission to help people feel, reflect, and flourish on purpose. Through her signature platform, Beautiful Weirdo Therapy and Consultation, she creates emotionally honest spaces where women can return to themselves and where workplaces, schools, and communities can reconnect with what it means to live and lead well. Her talks are a soulful blend of research-based insight and real-world reflection. Audiences leave with more than inspiration. They leave with permission. Dr. Mason, welcome to Tend to It.
Hello.
Hello. So, How are you doing today? We are really glad to have you here, and I'm excited to talk to you about some things. So I just wanted to see how you feeling. How you doing?
I'm feeling good. It's the end of the day. I'm happy about that. Got through
Yeah,
a day. So any opportunity to get through another day and to do it well and still have my brain in my mind at the end of the day, that's good news.
you made it. Good job.
Hmm.
You did your best. Good job. So we're gonna, talk a little bit about preparing the soil. And, I really felt like because of the work you do and how you just kind of really take pride in helping people find, their happiness and finding those things that kind of root them,
Hmm.
that they can come back to when things might be awry, when things might not be going well, they can go back to these things. And that's something that, you've always done, and I've always see you do. No matter what's going on, I have these things that I can rely on and I can count on, whether it's the gym or walking or whatever it is that you might be doing at the time, making scarves or, whatever the case may be, cookies or whatever. There's something that you can
A
go
lot of
back to.
things.
Yes, so it's really not just what you do, it's what you are. And that's why not just what you do, but who you are. And
Hmm.
that's why I wanted to, really have you on today. I just felt like you would be a really good person to, talk to folks about what is it like to prepare your soil and to create your foundation, to optimize your mental health. So, um, I do have a question. I have a few questions, and you can actually go on, if there's anything that you want to say or add, feel free to, just put it out there. But I wanted to ask and start with the question of what does preparing the soil mean to you in the context of mental and emotional well being when you think about preparing the soil?
Well, when I think about preparing the soil, I think about how can I make it a soft place for me to grow things, for me to land, for me to bounce back. So that means being intentional on a daily basis of doing something that is going to be enriching. So that when life happens, because life is going to happen, you can't escape grief, you can't escape loss, friendships, all these different things. So
Yeah.
knowing that that's going to happen, it's like, what are you doing intentionally to have a preventative approach so that it's not as devastating? So
Mm,
that even if the ground is a little bit rocky, stuff can still grow. Like I don't want my soil to be depleted. So me being intentional daily helps me to do that.
And it sounds like you're speaking of really being proactive,
Mhm.
like some people they talk about, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, I don't know what's going to happen next. And I think, you're kind of speaking of it's things are going to happen.
Oh, for sure.
These are it's going to happen. So what are you doing to kind of prepare for that? And I hear you saying that. And one of the things that, I always was so inspired by was how even when you didn't feel like it, there were still some things that you always were able to do
Mhm.
that, were foundational for you. So, when you think about those moments when you just don't have it in you,
Mhm.
you know, what is it for you like that kind of pushes you to be able to show up? Because sometimes we don't have the motivation. How is it that you're able to do that?
Well, I have a list of things. So I have high energy things when I feel like, oh, I could take on the world. I have low energy things that don't require a heavy lift. So if it's something like, I know moving my body is going to give me some happy endorphins. I know that's going to make me feel like I can get a little closer or further throughout the day. But maybe I don't feel like doing a 45-minute or an hour hit workout. Like I just don't have it. But I know what I do have. I have tennis shoes. I know that if I go outside and I walk, that's a low energy thing that I can walk. And if I set a timer, if I can make it through one good song, I'm going to be jamming by the end and then I'm going to get lost in the moment. So it's having just being flexible with what you are capable of doing. Some days you're going to feel like you have a lot of energy, and other days we don't know what comes. It could be something unexpected and you don't feel like it. So, having like a list of different things. So, I have that list of low, mid, high, but then I also have my people. I have different communities. And this part, I'm not going to cry doing this.
We
I'm
just
gonna
got
do it.
started.
I know.
I knew that you was gonna do this.
When I think about my people, though, and how intentional that I have been to have different communities. So I may have a gym community, I may have a gratitude community, I may have a work community. I have all of these different things, but I'm intentional about that because I know the mental health aspects. When people die, what they regret is they did not build or foster relationships. And
Mm,
we're in a season where people feel alone because
yeah,
they are connected on phones, but they really don't connect with people. And we need people. And so if I know that I'm having a really rough time, I will call and be like, hey, we need to get together.
yeah.
Because I know if my light is low, whew, I know if my light is low, my friends, my sisters, I can glean from their light.
Mm.
And that will help be the buffer against some of these things. And so that was my little moment there, but we're good.
No, no, I appreciate it. And I always appreciate the authenticity, and I'm a proponent of tears. Let it come, let it flow. I know your face beat. You don't want to, do too
Exactly.
much. But I'm thinking about, and I love to hear you say, there are different lists that I have for the capacity that I have.
Mhm,
And it's like it's levels to this. So for some people, they might say, this is what I normally do. And I don't have it in me to do that. So I won't do anything. But
mhm,
to be able to have the option to say, well, I can't do this, but I can do that.
mhm,
That gives you, just more room. So I do think that there is, and I'm glad you said that, like, for people to actually look at, like, what does it look like to have low, mid, and high
mhm,
impact, or kind of labor things that you can do
mhm,
when you need and feel a certain way. And so there is something that you're always doing. So
mhm,
when you think about low, like an example of something where, let's say somebody can barely get out of bed,
mhm,
what is a suggestion for something low that can contribute to their soil while they're in that space, that
mhm.
they may be able to do?
I think one of the low energies, if you can't get out of bed, one of the things is if you have certain movies that you know are going to bring you joy and laughter, because
Yeah.
there's something about getting that happy endorphin from laughing. And it's something that you can just, hey, like I know if I turn on White Chicks, I am going to be laughing. I already know like that. You don't like that movie, White Chicks?
No, ma'am. But go ahead. That's your
Oh
movie.
my
That's your
goodness gracious. I love that movie. But White
okay.
Chicks is going to have me laughing. I also, uh, something case of Kimmy Schmidt or something like, but there are certain shows that I watch, Modern Family. Like sometimes even if
Yeah.
I have like a low session that's heavy, it's like, okay, in between a session to regroup, to reset, I'm going to look at the Modern Family, or I'm going to look at something that's going to make me laugh. It could be as something simple as uh, watching babies laugh. But what are the
Mm-hmm.
things that instantly bring you joy that only require you to press play?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's something that's low energy.
Yeah. And it also speaks to you being intentional about like those moments where you do have capacity to think about what these things are.
Mhm,
So, because in those moments, you might not be able to access it. But if I have it on a list, I can pull a list and say, okay,
mhm,
all right, well, I can at least do that. You
mhm,
know, so thank you for offering that, because I think that that's a good point, because sometimes we just don't feel like doing anything, and recognizing that even in that there is something that I
mhm,
can do to, that can be restorative and that can pour into me. Okay, so how do you know when your soil needs tending, when
mhm.
it's time to pause, replenish, or make adjustments? So what are the indications that you've experienced that, I need to course correct, or I need to tend to something a little bit more, I need to pay more attention, I need to do something different?
I can't explain it. There's a feeling that I get that,
Mhm.
okay, I feel overstimulated. I feel like it's too much going on. I'm easily irritated. Sometimes the things that normally bring me joy feel like heavy weights.
Mm.
And when it starts to feel that way, it's a check like, hey, something needs to be revisited. So
Mhm.
sometimes we get trapped into systems. Like this is what always worked, so we always do these things.
Yeah.
And I'm really intentional about not being stuck in the all or nothing, or it has to be this way each and every time. Because
Mhm.
as people, we need flexibility. Also, when things that normally bring me joy start to feel like a heavy weight, it's no longer fun. That lets me know I need to stop and revisit if the system is working. And I say that to say sometimes we get trapped in our systems, so that when we start doing it one way, we feel like we have to keep going instead of stopping to revisit. Does this system even work anymore?
Mm,
Sometimes the timing may not work anymore or something else has changed, but we're still going and caught in this is the way I always do it, so I'm going to keep. So when I start to have those feelings, it's like, okay, let me sit for a moment and think, has something changed? Is this still working? Can I do this differently? So when I start to get those feelings, it's like, okay, take a pause.
yeah. And it's so interesting that you bring up that feeling of a heavy weight because
Mhm,
in the last episode, when we were talking to Cherie, she was talking about she would wake up and feeling that heavy weight. That was a kind of an indication for her
mhm,
as well. And I think that when we think about being overwhelmed and that feeling that kind of comes over us and being able to recognize it for
mhm,
what it is, and there is a something to be said about paying attention and recognizing different things that are happening that's
mhm,
happening in your body.
mhm,
Like you said, like I feel something, I can't really describe it, but you know what it is. It's like,
mhm,
when I feel this
mhm,
is something for me to pay attention to, so you don't find that it's going days and weeks before you actually do something,
mhm,
about it, so you have those, those indicators.
mhm,
um One of the things that um, comes up, for me is when I notice that it's like, well, why is it that I'm waking up later than usual? Because usually I wake up between 6:30. I don't need an
mhm,
alarm. I don't need
mhm,
to, but when I start waking up at like 9, or,
mhm,
I wake up and then I just linger in the bed, and I find I don't even want to get out of bed. It's 10. It's like, what is
mhm,
going on? Something, is different. Or I look around in my space and I'm
mhm,
like, this is extra messy. Like,
mhm,
what, what is going on? So I do think, paying attention to some of those things can give
mhm,
you an indication. And that's when you can go to your list and
mhm,
say, okay, what are some of the things that I can do? Who can
mhm,
I talk to?
mhm,
What can happen? If I'm talking to a therapist, like, hey, I call it the lady, you talking to the lady. It could be a man, I know that,
mhm,
somebody non-binary, we know. But I
mhm,
call it the lady. Like, this is what's going on. This is what I'm noticing. And I
mhm.
need some support around that. So being able to tap into those things for sure.
But I
For sure.
also think even before tapping into those things, you have to stop. Like
For sure.
if you're not feeling the soil, like
For
if
sure.
you aren't being aware of, hey, not being afraid to just stop
Good point.
and really get past this mantra of I got to push through, I got to push through.
Mhm.
No, stop and feel. And if you're doing, you're not stopping, you're not feeling. And if you're not feeling, then you could just be unconsciously just draining your soil. And then you look
Yes.
up and it's dry
Yes.
because you aren't paying attention to, oh, is this restoring me? As much as I'm putting out, am I engaging in restorative practices?
But yes, that pause piece is so key.
Mhm,
And I often talk about the power of the pause.
mhm,
It just gives you an opportunity to check in. I think that that's the part. It's like, okay, until I'm able to actually stop,
mhm,
I don't know which direction. So it's to go in. I don't know which direction to go into. So,
mhm,
or to go to. So if, let's say, a lot's going on, I'm lost, I'm going around the same. If unless I pause and
mhm,
actually check the directions, or
mhm,
check the GPS or whatever to make sure, then I can still continue going in the wrong direction. But this way, it gives me an opportunity. Like, okay, now that I pause, I can think about it.
mhm,
This is how I'm feeling. This
mhm,
is what I need, and this is what I can do to get this need met.
mhm,
But it's really difficult to do that if we aren't giving ourselves an
mhm,
opportunity to
mhm.
pause.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that you know brought up, and I just want you to speak a little bit about, is systems. You were
Mm-hmm.
like, systems aren't working. So when you talk about systems, kind of describe, you know, what systems, what you mean by that when you say that.
So when I talk about systems, I'm talking about the things in your life, like how you manage certain things. Not only how you manage it, but what is your understanding? What is your culture around managing it? So as women, uh, we can be indoctrinated in many different systems and maybe unconscious about it. So if we are caring for our children, we can just be, our identity is that's what we're supposed to do. We are the main caretakers for the children. But have you had a conversation if that system actually works? Do you have to subscribe to this particular gender role? And so, do you talk about these systems? Do you want to participate? Did you sign up, or were you just grandfathered in? So I talk about evaluating these systems and how does the system that you're in works for you work for you. Rather, it's your work system. Is it better if you start work at early in the morning? Is it better if you start at late in the evening? Or have you just subscribed to I got to do a 9 to 5? Like what actually works for you?
And what actually works for you today. Because I remember when I was in graduate school, I had a system,
Mm-hmm.
and it was janky, but it worked for me. It
Mm-hmm.
worked really well for me. But then when I went back and I was in a doctoral program, I
Mm-hmm.
tried some of the same systems in place that I had
Mm-hmm.
in place while I was in my master's program, and
Mm-hmm.
I could not for the life of me understand why it did not work. I was
Mm-hmm.
not the same person.
Mm-hmm.
I did not show up in the same way, and I
Mm-hmm.
needed to establish a
Mm-hmm.
different system that worked for me where I was in that moment. So
Mm-hmm.
I do think that that can be kind of jarring too, but
Mm-hmm.
being able to recognize that, because it's like, okay, I got through graduate school, so I know that works. So
Mm-hmm.
let me put this in place because that means that this may work. And then if that doesn't work, it's like, what does that mean for me in
Mm-hmm.
this environment, this, you know, in this place now? Because now I have to start anew. But I think being open, like you said, being flexible
Mm-hmm.
to looking at, okay, this might work, but this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
This is still good, but
Mm-hmm.
I have to let this go, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So
Yeah.
okay, the systems are, you know, really important. If we hold too tight to them, we can, you know, put ourselves in a box that might really prevent us from, you know, really looking at what it means for
Mm-hmm.
us to really nourish that soil and do those things that we
Mm-hmm.
need in the moment. Because I'm like, you know, I have people like, you know, well, I couldn't go to the gym, you know, because I didn't have an hour. It's like, all right, well, did you have 20 minutes? Did you have
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes? You know, but it's almost like if I can't do it like this, then it, you know, I won't
All
do
or
it at
nothing.
all. And then what that does is it keeps you in this place where, like you said, again, all or nothing. And with
Mm-hmm.
that all or nothing, then you find yourself not doing anything, and then things are not getting tended to.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about, you know, just that
Mm-hmm.
classic cognitive behavioral therapy, your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts
Mm-hmm.
impact your feelings impact your behaviors, and your behaviors reinforce your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So if I am in this place where, yo, I didn't do this today. I haven't done it for the last 3 days because I'm telling myself I can't do anything unless I do it this way. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just do it tomorrow. Then I start feeling a certain way, or I could start feeling a certain way. It's like, dang, here I go again. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always falling off, and I usually get back on.
Oh,
You know,
negative.
always, and
Mm-hmm.
you begin to feel discouraged. Now, if I feel discouraged, that might impact my behavior, which in turn could be what you're eating, what you're drinking, all
Mm-hmm.
of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then that reinforces the thought that,
Mm-hmm.
dang, so you find yourself, or you could find yourself in a cycle. So
Mm-hmm.
really looking at, what am I doing to help me to create this cycle in a system that works for me, that I feel good about,
Mm-hmm.
around, you know, that helps me to think differently. Because sometimes we can have stinking thinking,
Mm-hmm.
think differently, feel differently. And so I can show up differently for myself, or show up in a way that actually aligns with my journey, you
But
know?
also giving yourself permission to be okay to restructure. I
Yes.
think sometimes a lot of people get stuck with applying old systems to the now and they don't align. You've grown. You're not the same person. Conditions are different. I remember when I couldn't figure out what was happening when I was just in a grievous state. Just grief was going. I was still working out and stuff of the sort, but I just couldn't. I didn't have it like to just teach and do all of that, and I had to really sit with myself. Like my life has changed. It's totally different now, and to give myself permission to what works for now, not trying to apply old systems, but really evaluating in the now, what do I need? In the now, what would be supportive? And at that time, I was teaching classes and then I stopped teaching classes. I was like, I need to be in a group. Somebody need to teach me. I don't
Yeah.
want to do the heavy lifting. But that means being okay with saying things have changed. Let me explore what works for this current season instead of trying to be the person you were back then, because you're not the same person. And we get stuck in that idea of we need to be this instead of just being in the now. So
Yeah.
that's, and a mantra is some movement is better than none. So for
Mhm.
the all or nothing thinker who's trying to break out of, hey, I got to do the gym this way. Okay, but if you don't do it this way, that's zero, right? So maybe it's not about going to the gym. Maybe it's just going outside for a 5 minute walk. That's some movement. So what is the littlest thing to bring it further? And sometimes that just helps, but some movement instead of you doing zero.
Yeah. And I was listening to you talking about giving yourself permission to do something different when it comes to those systems, because things may have changed. You may be a different person. One of the things that came up for me is feeling like a failure. It's
Mm.
like when I tried to stay stuck in that system, in
Mhm.
that way of doing things, because it wasn't working, I was feeling bad. And it's kind
Mhm.
of like, now I have to do something different. Here I go again, another thing. So I do think sometimes, one of the reasons why it's hard is, one, that worked for me, and I want to continue. I want this to work. It's
Mhm.
proven that works. Like, let me just do that. The other thing is, I don't want to do another thing. Now
Mhm.
I got to come up with another system. But then
Yeah.
it's one of those things. It's like, get over yourself. If you want to do well, if you want to do this in a way that
Mhm.
doesn't take you out, that doesn't break you down, you're going to
Mhm.
have to meet yourself where you are today. That
Mhm.
is not failure at
Mm-mm.
all.
Mm-mm.
That is actually one of the bravest things you could do. Like, okay, this is what's going on. That's
Mhm.
all right. This worked there, and that was amazing. And I'm glad that I was able to do
Mhm.
that. And if
It
I could
served
do
you
that,
well. Mhm.
right, if I could do that then, I could do that again. I can do
Mhm.
that now. I've done it. So
Mhm.
I have evidence that I can do this again, and it's okay. We just have to reframe it a bit, because
Mhm.
it can definitely initially feel like failure.
Mhm. But figuring out is a part of well-being.
Mhm.
It's stressful sometimes because that's a process of, oh, I got to learn something new, and sometimes that can come with adjustment. But figuring out is a part of well-being that isn't talked about enough. That a part of the process, because we are going to go through so many changes. We're
Yeah.
going to go through a lot of changes. And how do we reset? How do we determine if we need a bigger pot? How do we determine if we need a smaller pot? How do we determine if it needs to be repotted, or we need
Mhm.
more sunlight, or we need to be isolated a little bit? Like, it's a part of that process, and being okay to one, accept I'm going to go through changes, and I give myself permission to restructure in the now for those changes. And
Yes.
while I'm going through those changes, I am compassionate in talking to myself, because I realize I'm going through changes.
Yes.
And if you're a woman, you're going through a lot of changes quickly. Like, quickly, we go through the most. And so we are more susceptible to psychological stressors. And if you understand that, it's like, oh, I gotta have good soil. I gotta have some nutrients that, hey, stuff is going to happen, but because of my soil and because I've been intentional about it, something is still going to grow. There's still going to be something in there.
Yeah.
But and that's why it's just so important. You get me a little fired up.
I
Yes.
was just about to say, you getting fired up. Okay. You felt that in your shundo. You was lighting up. I ain't with you.
Yes.
So one of the things that got you a little teary, when we first started, that we definitely need to talk more, a little bit more about,
Mhm.
is the role. What role does community and
Mhm.
support systems play in preparing the soil for your growth?
Mhm.
So I don't want to, get you all in your feels again, but when you think about community and support systems and the role that they've played in preparing your soil, what comes up for you?
So much. When I think about community, I think about it being an awesome supercalifragilisticexpialidocious buffer system for life. You
Ooh,
are going to go I can't say that enough. I think we get so trapped in our brains, rather it's spiritual stuff. Oh, because we serve God, nothing is going to happen to us, or we're going to not experience all these things. But when you accept that you're going to experience things, you invest in your buffers, your friends, the quality of your relationship. As you get older, as you age, you need your people.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be ace boon coon. You can have different pockets of, hey, I'm just saying, hey, I'm checking
Mhm.
in. How are you doing? You can have, your deeper friendships where we can sit out, ball out, lay prostrate, come back, watch movies, or what have you. You can have systems that's just around your goals, around, it could just be gym friends. It could be, these my book club friends. But
Yeah.
you are intentional about creating different safe places because in life there are going to be different storms, and not to be not wearing one or two people out because you haven't invested in a community. So I
Right.
know if this person is available, because my friends go through things too. I can't just be like, hey, can I dump on you and not be available for them, or wear them out. But having different spaces, it creates a buffer, it creates a soft landing, it helps you to bounce back, it helps you to be seen when you feel alone. You would be
Yeah.
amazed how many people are going through depression in a lot of different states because they have not invested in their friends, or
Yeah.
they don't have a community, and that gives you that soft place to land. So when I think about building a community, I would not be where I am. I wouldn't be married to who I am. I mean, not to who I am. I wouldn't be married to my husband
Yeah.
because my friendship showed me love. They sh- they showed me love, and it had me wanting and seeking. I knew what it felt like, so I knew how to identify it. And there's so many things that you can get from a community, not just a friendship piece, but it exposes you to different worlds. If you look at the statistics and you think about relationships, people who invest in their communities and their relationships, they are givers. They don't have as many ailments. Even if
Wow.
they do have ailments, that cushion with that friend, it creates a soft place to land. But if you
Yeah.
look at the statistics, the relationships that you invest in are very important. They have better life satisfaction, they have
Mhm.
less depression and mood disorders. We're talking about investing in communities and friendships. That's the power of it. So it's like free medicine, but
Yeah.
being intentional about being friendly. Like
Mhm.
anytime I'm going to place, I'm looking to collect somebody. I'm like, who's open to be collected? Sometimes it doesn't work out well because people I collected some strange ones and had to throw them back. But I'm open, and I'm not stuck in this mantra of no new friends, or I just got 5 friends. Like, they're gonna die. I mean,
Okay.
the more the merrier.
The more the merrier is definitely a way to put it. I think that one of the things too to consider is, when you do have the soil and just how protective you are of it and what it looks like,
Mhm,
to make sure it's rich.
mhm,
And sometimes you might have people, places, or things that may have served you at one time
mhm,
but no longer serve you
mhm,
in the same way. And,
mhm,
just really thinking about the challenge with how things change in that way.
mhm,
Because I'm what I'm hearing is that friend connections are
mhm,
very, very important to you.
mhm,
And just thinking about, you know, what what are some of the things that you tell yourself, and how do you take care of yourself when you realize that there's a relationship that just doesn't go along with,
mhm.
the journey that you're on now, and it's not really feeding your soil and it's not working for you?
Well, some of the things I ask myself, I I really give myself permission to restructure a lot.
Mhm.
And so if a friendship isn't serving me, or something is going on where it's just not gelling, um, I can step back. I can
Mhm.
still love you from a distance. I can still be there, but I give myself permission to have a boundary where if this is taking from me, I can still relate with you, I'm just not giving as much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I can
So
still,
boundaries.
yeah, I can still be there, but it's just in a different way.
Yeah. So shifting, just
Hmm.
kind of, pivoting. It's like, yeah, we can still be in relationship, but it's going to look different,
Hmm.
for you. Okay.
But I think
Okay.
also realizing that even when you have a whole bunch of people, some people may think they're further in your, I guess, in your, not further, but they're higher
Closer.
up, closer, and
Mhm.
they're not. And I think sometimes the world we live in, social media and all the stuff can make you feel like you're actually closer to a person. But I have real conversations like if it is a disagreement,
Mhm.
um, are they like are they in my circle? Like some people are worth fighting for.
Mhm.
Like there are certain people in my life I'm fighting. You not getting rid of me. I'm going to be like, nah, I messed up. Whatever. Let's go.
Yeah.
But there are
Yeah.
other people where it's like you're not that constant of a presence in my life to give so much of my energy. And it's having those real conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or sometimes the conversations it aren't necessarily with them, it's with yourself. Of where are these people? Are they fillers? Or are
Mm,
these like your people?
yeah.
So
Okay. Okay. So what are some practical coping strategies you recommend for, for grounding ourselves when life, feels uncertain or it feels like we're being uprooted? What are some grounding kind of coping strategies that you can offer to us?
breathing. Really
Breathing.
sitting to breathe, to really just be still for a moment, to inhale and exhale. Sometimes you don't realize how fast you're going until you stop and you just breathe. So, I do love movement. Um, I am, got some ADHD things going on. So, movement very helpful, but it's also helpful to process emotions and to also slow down. So when you are intentionally engaged in the activity where you're able to lose yourself, that is an opportunity for you to put a pause on uncomfortable emotions.
Mm, okay.
And so when you can really lock in, you'll notice that all these other things, they're not there because you're locked in. So that is an intentional practice that you can do. Um, Walking, gratitude, really doing 3 to 4 things about what went well today, what made me smile, what did I notice, what didn't I expect. But having those reflective questions, because you'll realize and you'll train your brain that even while life is happening, there is still stuff growing. There's
Yes.
still stuff growing, but we
Yes.
have to pay attention and notice and not just rush by. Like when I ask my clients, "Oh, what went well today?" And they're like, "What went well? I don't think nothing went well." I'm like, "Am I talking to a dead person right now? Are you alive? Are you breathing?" But some of the things that we don't even pay attention to,
Yeah.
like the fact that we have lights, that we actually have a stove. Do you remember? Well, you don't remember because you weren't alive, neither was I. But there was a time where people had to like have those little pots or whatever and heat things up that way. Can you imagine
No.
living that way now?
No, it just really makes me want to clutch my invisible pearls when I think about the fact that we didn't have a microwave. I
That
remember having to warm stuff up in the oven. Like,
350.
and listen, now you kind of want to warm stuff up in the oven because the microwave might not be doing it. But I remember a time when there were things that were different. But I do think that when you think about gratitude, sometimes it can
Mhm,
be hard. Years ago, I
mhm,
started this gratitude journey. I'm like, every day I'm going to
mhm,
have one thing
mhm,
that I can identify that I'm grateful for, at least one thing.
mhm,
And I found that it was hard for me to kind of think of things, but what it caused me to do was be intentional
mhm,
about the things that were there that I wasn't noticing because we
mhm.
kind of look at the bigger things. So I'm starting like, I'm grateful for my pillows. I'm grateful for running water,
The
and
cold
you
side of the pillow too.
listen, that part. So I can actually flip it over. It's like a different pillow. Like who
Mhm,
knew? I'm grateful for that. But when you think about like some of those things that kind of help to ground you. Because
Mhm,
yes, I always offer to people, what is the complete picture? Yes,
mhm,
this is happening. What else is happening?
mhm,
This is what's on the other side of the coin.
mhm,
So, yes, this could be the outcome. This is going on, but this is also going on.
mhm,
And this could also be an outcome. So, I'm not telling you not to think about or,
mhm,
not to even consider some of those things that may not be going well, but just offering that you give the same amount of consideration to the
uh-huh,
things that are going well and the
mhm,
things that could, go well, because we can get so caught up
mhm,
in the things that are negative, or those things that we kind of you know this seemed like more of the likely, because a lot of times people plan for the worst,
mhm,
and because they don't want to be caught off guard or whatever
mhm,
the case may be, so they can find themselves in that way of like that stinking thinking of oh, this is probably going to happen, this is the only thing that happened, I can't think of anything that happened good today, and
mhm,
da, 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 because we kind of don't give ourselves permission. But when you are intentional and you
mhm,
have those prompts, it's
mhm,
like you are charged with actually
mhm,
coming up with something.
mhm.
So you're like thinking a little bit harder. It's like, oh yeah, I am grateful for that. Oh yeah, my neighbor held the door for
And
me.
it spirals up. So gratitude is an emotion that spirals up. It's a really great weapon. It's one of the emotions that spirals to love, to kindness, to accomplishment, to appreciation. It spirals to so many different emotions. And if you can use it as a weapon, you really train your brain to see another side when stuff is happening. And we need that.
Mm.
We need
Weapon
that.
is an interesting word.
Mhm.
When you say weapon. So is it that you are fighting against when you say weapon? What makes you use that word?
Life.
Hmm.
Like gratitude is a weapon when you are fighting against this thing called life. And life is going to have its ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And when it has those moments where it's just like, what is happening? This sucks. Like, what is happening at that same moment when you've been training your brain throughout? And this is when we're talking about you are intentional about your soil throughout. Like every day, you're making it an intentional practice. It's easier for you to think on the other side, it's easier for you to be more resilient. So,
Yeah.
it's a weapon in this life that we need. It helps us to be able to think differently. It helps us to bounce back. It helps us to stabilize, and it can also bolster our well being. So, when you really latch onto these things and you're intentional about it, like life is going to happen. We got to arm up. It's game time.
Okay. Let's get it together. So that's definitely one of, it sounds like one of the things that helps to ground you is
Hmm.
gratitude. Okay.
Hmm. Sure.
All right. So I have one question before we get ready to kind of close up with another question. But I want to
Hmm.
ask you how, and I'm so interested in your response to this, but
Hmm.
how can you tell the difference between healthy coping
Hmm.
and avoidance?
Okay. So, healthy coping is you are kind of taking a pause, but you're going to come back to address the situation. Uh,
Okay.
avoidance is you're doing everything not to entertain the feeling. So, for instance, let's say I had, oh, this is a true story. Um, Me and my husband may have got into it on the way to the gym,
Hmm.
right? Uh, and what I mean by get into it, because I don't want any people reading. My husband's a great man, but having a heated a discussion. They like, oh, she getting beat up in the car on the way to the gym. I don't know what's going on, but just to dispel any of those notions. But we're having a heated conversation or something go well. I'm in my workout. I am like getting it in, like really processing emotions. And afterwards, I'm feeling like more even kill. I got some emotions out. I can have a conversation without so much of the intensity. So that's healthy coping. I did something, got a lot of the feels out. Now I'm coming back to talk to it. I'm not avoiding the emotions or I'm not avoiding the situation. If I was avoiding that situation, I would never have the conversation. Like I would do everything not to talk because I don't want to engage in something that's going to make me feel
Mm.
uncomfortable feelings.
Okay.
So I think when you're talking about avoiding, you're doing things so that you don't experience uncomfortable emotions.
Mm.
You're trying to avoid the situation. Whereas when you're coping, you can take a time out, you can cope in a different way, but you are still going to address the situation. You're still going to go head first with addressing the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, with one, it seems like you're more present, and the
Hmm.
other one, you're not, you know. And let's be honest, uncomfortable feelings and those things
Hmm.
can really cause you to not,
Okay.
because I think about, the very thing that I use reading for coping. It relaxes me and
Hmm.
all of those things. And, I feel good, a good story, but also I use
Hmm.
reading to avoid.
Hmm.
So that's another indication that something's going on. I read book after book after book after book after book. It's like, all right, what
Hmm.
is going on? And
Hmm.
especially if I'm listening to books, that's
Hmm.
when I recognize it's like soon as one stops, I want to pick up another one. I don't want to hear my own thoughts. I don't want to. So it's not something that is restorative anymore. It becomes something that is avoidance. And
Hmm.
being able to recognize that. And
Hmm.
that's why, we talked about it in the last episode and talking about it again in this episode, and I'm sure we'll talk about it even more. It is
Hmm.
so important that we are aware of what's happening with us.
Hmm.
That we are giving ourselves an opportunity to pay attention and
Hmm.
to notice what is going on and what we're experiencing.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, I can recognize now, oh yeah, I'm avoiding and I'm gonna do it for a little while. But I'll be back. I might do some healthy coping strategies on
Hmm.
Friday, but it's
Hmm.
Wednesday, and y'all gonna get this avoidance but that is coming from a place of awareness, and that I
Hmm.
know, not necessarily just kind of going along and not really realizing what's happening. Not saying it's the greatest thing to do, but knowing is half the battle.
But
You gotta be
you
aware.
know your patterns though.
Yeah.
So you have spent time with yourself to identify this is what happens when I feel uncomfortable. And I think it's interesting because I do the opposite of what you do. If
Mm.
I've only read 2 books, be concerned.
Be concerned.
Be concerned. If I've only read 2 books, then because books bring me so much joy. If I'm if I'm in it, I'm in it. And if it's a lull, it's like, oh, something's going on. I'm feeling away. Now, don't be looking at my reading list when I be posting my books now. Because in August it was only like 3. I was like, oh, it's a little difficult here.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
it's being aware, and it goes back to the pause. It goes
Yes.
back. Have you sat with yourself to discover, like, what is it that you do when you're angry? What is it that you do when you need support? Are you talking? Are you withdrawing? You know, being intentional about the awareness. Are you stopping to feel? Can we stop to feel and
Yeah.
not be afraid of feeling?
Yeah. Good. Good. Not be afraid of feeling. Not be afraid of feeling. And I think what helps us to not be afraid of feeling is to have those systems, that community, and those things in place, and
Mhm.
actually to remember, times when we allowed ourselves to feel before we made it through it.
Mhm.
We have things that we can kind of go back to. It's like, you know what, this feels very uncomfortable, but I've done these hard things in the past. And
Mhm.
I know that I can do it this time. And that
Mhm.
kind of goes back to how we talk to ourselves.
Mhm.
You know, like when I think about how I would encourage, my daughters or my sons and things like that. And it's
Mhm.
like, this is how I need to talk to myself.
Mhm.
I would never say, what's wrong with you? You always messing something up. See, here you go again. You ain't gonna be able to do it. You about to mess this up just like you messed up the last thing. You're
Mhm.
wasting your time. I would never talk to them in that way. And I
Mhm.
think that another part of us just really kind of, preparing that soil and
Mhm.
nurturing is just how we talk to it. Because
Oh,
they
for
say,
sure.
you talk to plants and, I talk to my little plants and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But it's how you talk to yourself.
Mhm.
And it's so important that we're able to identify those moments even when we are, talking kind of grimy to ourselves and
Mhm.
checking in like, okay, why am I doing that? That's
Mhm,
not, this is not it, because we talk to ourselves the most. Your voice is the voice that you hear the most.
mhm,
So you want to make sure what you're saying to yourself is aligned with the journey that you're on, and aligned with who you are and
mhm.
whose you are. So I think that that's an important piece as well, like just kind of the conversations that you're having with yourself in your own head about what's going on, these systems, these coping strategies, all
Mhm,
of these things. It kind
mhm.
of goes back to, how are we talking to ourselves about it?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And also, there are some people who are probably listening who they can really say that they don't talk to themselves well. And so,
Mm,
for those people to start to develop that muscle to talk well and compassionately, don't play tennis in your brain. Don't let your voice be the only voice in your brain if your voice is not speaking nicely. And
yeah.
so invite somebody else. I tell people, invite somebody to play the game with you. So
Mm,
have a conversation, those thoughts that you're having, speak it to somebody else. Sometimes you hearing yourself talk, you'll be able to identify like, oh yeah, that's probably not, that ain't right. Now that I say that out loud, yeah, no.
yeah.
Uh, and it really helps so you can develop that compassionate voice
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have that conversation, or get a therapist, a good one. They'll let you know, like, oh, you really saying that to yourself? Does that
Hmm.
feel good? So
Yeah.
that you're not just playing tennis, meaning you're just bouncing the ball against your own thoughts. And if they're
Yeah.
negative thoughts, it's not a good look.
Yeah. Titi, thank you so much for being here. And as we close, we ask every guest two questions that remind us what keeps us grounded through every season.
Mhm.
First, if you could plant one seed of wisdom for our listeners, what would it be? That's the first question. So, if you could plant one seed of wisdom for our listeners, what would it be?
One seed is intention is your superpower. Being
Mm,
intentional is your superpower. Don't wait until a storm happens, but what can you do on a daily basis that enriches your soil?
absolutely. That is amazing advice. Thank you for that. And as a person who loves music,
Mhm.
what's a song? This is the second question. What's a song that keeps you rooted, especially in seasons when your growth may not look like blooming, but something is still taking shape beneath the surface?
I don't have a specific song. I have a
Okay.
specific artist. So
Okay.
if I feel anxiety, if I feel like the jitters, if I feel like just a little off and I want to be grounded or settling, I am playing Gregory Porter. It's something about his voice, it just hugs me. It hugs me and it just, I don't know what frequency the songs are on, but whatever it is, it just registers my brain and I feel like I'm literally back floating in a pool. It
Wow.
just feels
Okay.
great. So I either play him or Samara Joy. Those two, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
that's
Well, thank
grounding.
you. It is such a pleasure for you to give of your time to
Mhm,
speak to people about your experiences and be open. I know that there are things that you are working on. So if and you have a book that
mhm,
just came out. So if you want to, just speak to the title of your book, say where you can get it from,
mhm.
about your consulting. How can people get in contact with you, should they be interested, in seeking services?
Okay, well, you can get in contact with me via my website. I'm a beautiful weirdo, and it's the contraction, not I am. So it's I am a beautiful weirdo.com. Same on social media. Definitely check out my new book, Hey Sis, I See You. It is a gratitude journal specifically for sisters and for connection, for you to sit, pause, and reflect and realize the people who are in your life. And if you realize that you don't have a lot, then you can foster and reconnect with some people. So it's called Hey Sis, I See You. It's on Amazon, or you can get it directly from me, but go ahead and get it from Amazon. It's easier for me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. And you are a beautiful weirdo.
Yeah,
Beautiful weirdo you are.
indeed.
I love your energy and I'm glad that you are here. All right, loves, it's time for Tend to It, our weekly practice the part of the show where we stop just talking about tending and actually doing it. Last week, we talked about slowing down, about honoring your body's pace and giving yourself permission to rest. This week, we're going even deeper. Our Tend to It practice is simple but grounding. Write down 3 practices or people that feel like rich soil for you, your steady foundation. Return to one this week. Maybe it's a friend who reminds you who you are. Maybe it's journaling, prayer, or a walk that clears your mind. Whatever it is, identify it, name it, and tend to it. That's your soil. Okay, so now we're going to toss it over to Dr. Mason, Dr. T.C. Mason. You know, what are 3 of your practices or people that helps to keep your soil rich and keep you grounded?
One is my husband.
I knew you were going to say that. My man.
That man is my best friend. I mean, the laughs. Yesterday, we just went to a haunted wine tour. I mean, we just have fun. And he's somebody that I know loves me unconditionally and that I can be my worst and my best. And he's definitely good soil. And I'm going to keep it there because I was about to take it to another level. So we're going to keep it there. Don't do that. Okay. So my husband is one.
Okay.
Also, any crafts or movement, that is good soil for me. It allows me a space to just decompress. I give a lot to people. So when I can just hone in, be involved in crafts, do a workout or read a book, then that's my safe space. And also my little beanie Bob, my child. She, as much as she gets on my nerves sometimes, I love that little girl with my whole heart. I really do. And it's just amazing to see her grow. I mean, I actually had a whole child. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm like, oh. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. All of these nuggets that you have dropped. I appreciate your time. And I thank you for being here and continue to tend to it with us.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Absolutely. Now, just like we opened with taking a breath, loves, let's close our time together the same way. So wherever you are, take a breath with me. Inhale and exhale. Remember, the soil is rich, the seasons will change, and your growth is worth the care that you give. So be it, tend to it. This podcast reflects my personal reflections and professional insights as a licensed therapist, but it is not a substitute for therapy. The conversations and practices shared here are for educational and inspirational purposes only. If you are seeking mental health support, I encourage you to connect with a licensed therapist in your area who can provide individualized care. Tend to It is a production of Black Unicorn Productions. This episode was executive produced by Tanisha Williams. Special thanks to you, our community, for showing up and tending to it with us. Until next time, remember, the soil is rich, the seasons will change, and your growth is worth the care that you give. So be it, tend to it.